Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
What is going on, everyone? The other day, a couple buddies and I were in a group chat, nonstop texting, freaking out, going crazy. The texting thumbs would not stop until about 2 in the morning, debating the top 5 most impactful players in Philadelphia right now when it comes to winning a championship. So who needs to play elite? Who needs to be at the top of their game for that respected squad to come home on Broad Street with a parade? It was crazy. How do you keep this guy in but keep this guy out? How do you have him at 4 but have him in 2? It was great. It really was. That's the beauty of sports talk radio. That's the beauty of sports debates. So I opened up the phone lines. We had a few phone calls. I opened up the YouTube community page and people texted in their results, commented in their results. So I want to hear from you. I'm also going to give my opinion. But before we do all of that, let's hear a couple words from my sponsors. This episode of Sports Talk with Broads is sponsored by Orbit Energy and Power. They set the standard for clean energy. Whether you are looking to add solar to your home or company, Orbit Energy and Power works directly with you to ensure you are getting the best deal. Their team has over 20 plus years of experience, including working on Lincoln Financial Field. That's not all. Orbit also can provide water purification systems, backup energy services, battery storage, and more. Visit them online at orbitenergy.us or give them a call at 800-836-3987. Also, do not forget about Ravens Brew Coffee. I don't know how you can start your day with anything but Ravens Brew Coffee. You know me, I am extremely addicted. I will drink 3 billion cups of coffee a day. They have the best coffee I have ever had in my life. When it touches my lips, I get the goosebumps, I get the chills because it's that phenomenal. They are designed for your personality, for your palate. There's so much variety involved. Different occasions. What time of the day is it? Certain caffeine levels. It's remarkable. The link is in the description. Ravens Brew Coffee. All right, so let's be clear about a couple things when it comes to this list. The gap between 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 3 and 4, it's not huge. All of these players are so important to their franchises. We can all agree on that. So just because someone's at number 5, it doesn't mean that, well, they can just suck or they don't need to play well or they're bad players. Of course not. They are on this list for a reason. They have a big impact on their squad or else they wouldn't be on this list. So don't think about it as, oh, come on. I mean, this is just insane. And that was something I was trying to get off my chest through text when people were going crazy and trying to grab each other's throats virtually when people had someone off the list or someone had someone at 2 but at 4. It's like, dude, I get it actually if people were off the list, but 2 instead of 4, I get the frustration, don't get me wrong, but let's not act as if, well, if you're 4, you don't have that much of an impact. No, they're also meaningful. Let's start with number 5 for me. Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid, I pick him because I think more of the nature of the center position. Looking at the style of play in today's era, yes, he is so dominant. There's only a few guys that can hang with him. Somehow one of those players is a 35 million-year-old Marc Gasol. I don't know how to explain that. Listen, throughout this league, there are always those players that can shut down a specific player who's way better than them, and you question, how does that consistently happen? For some reason, Marc Gasol is that player for Joel Embiid. But when you look at the nature of the position in 2020 basketball, he can totally destroy teams. He can put up 42. He can put up 40 points, no doubt about it, and he can totally destroy a game. He can totally destroy a team. He can grab 18 rebounds on top of that. He can go to the charity stripe 42 times. He needs to be up there. He has to be playing at the top of their game for the team to win. I'm not knocking him. I just look at the position, and that's why I have him number 5, while you think about the other player on the Sixers, which we will get into later in this list, And that's why I put him over Joel Embiid. Ben Simmons is higher on the list than Joel Embiid for a reason, and I say that because of the nature of the position. But if Embiid does have a night where he scores 38 points, grabs 14 boards, goes to the charity stripe so many times, and puts the other team in foul trouble, and it's just one of those games where it's, damn, he's windmill dunking, and he's doing the airplane. Yeah, I mean, come on. If he plays like that, the team is going to roll, clearly. So that's why I have him at number 5. If he does that, this team will go places. But still, when you look at how this game is played today, that is why I have him 5 and Ben Simmons over him. Number 4. This was hard for me. And I'll tell you why. The answer is Aaron Nola. I put Aaron Nola at 4. You need dominating pitching. You really do. You got to have pitching that just shuts teams down. He's not a player who will throw 100 miles per hour. That concerns me with Nola. He's not a Max Scherzer ace. He's not that Justin Verlander ace. Is he a number 1? Yes. Is he an elite ace? I don't know, and I don't think so, but he's still a true number 1 who can put away guys with a 92, 93 mile per hour fastball. He can use his off-speed stuff. He's great at location. He's very effective, yes. Aaron Nola, to me, would have to be elite for the Philadelphia Phillies to win a championship. Where I struggled was Wheeler. And why I thought that way, originally, if he was elite, and Aaron Nola was giving you good baseball, not necessarily elite, but if he gives you good baseball, and Zach Wheeler was elite, you're going to need more than one guy. You're going to need more than one player to really step up, right? And I thought maybe if he was able to deliver, if he was able to really put players away and stay healthy and be a number 2 player for this Phillies team, well, then it was possible that they can go farther and really push for that World Series in this scenario, of course, if we had 2 players playing at the top of their game. But I couldn't do that. I have to be true to this and say Aaron Nola would have to be elite. I can't just say, well, Aaron Nola will be okay and Zach Wheeler will be elite. No, let's just turn the tables. What if Aaron Nola was elite, which I think his elite is probably better than Zach Wheeler's elite, and then Wheeler was okay? Why can't that be the scenario? Of course it can. Naturally, because of the paycheck, because of the splash, Bryce Harper's name will be brought up with the Phillies. But I don't necessarily think that a position player will have more of an impact than a starting pitcher when it comes to playoff baseball. Well, he plays every day, bro. Starting pitching's only how many days? In the playoffs, though, you get less rest. You're going more often. And look at the Washington Nationals. Look at the teams that win championships in Major League Baseball. They have those dudes. They have those dudes who really ball out, who want the ball in their hands, who will pitch with not a lot of rest. Madison Bumgarner. Okay, that was special. Cole Hamels. He was special. And it's ironic that I'm having this conversation. Yet the 2011 pitching staff compared to the 2008 pitching staff was significantly different. One team was stacked with rotation. The other team, Joe Blanton. How about that? Jamie Moyer. How about that? But you do get my point. You had that one guy. Cole Hamels was insane. Madison Bumgarner was insane. Look at Max Scherzer, Steven Strasburg specifically. He was insane. It matters. Justin Verlander, although in the World Series, he wasn't insane, and that kind of defends my point even more. He's this player who has the ability to be shut down and destroy teams night after night after night when he takes the bump. He did not do that specifically in the World Series, and the Houston Astros did not succeed as much as they probably should have when he is on the mound. So number 4, I'll go with Aaron Nola, even though I did think Zach Wheeler, and I know everyone thinks instantly, let's rock and roll with Bryce Harper. With the nature of starting pitching in postseason play and how brutal it is and how important it is to the outcome of the game, I need Aaron Nola. I need Aaron Nola to give us everything he's got. Number 3 is Ben Simmons. And why I chose Ben Simmons is this. If he isn't playing elite and just Joel Embiid is, I don't know if that's enough long term. Could that get you by at a game? Can that get you by 2 games? Sure, I think so. But Ben Simmons really needs to be elite. And I don't want to make this a Ben Simmons versus Joel Embiid thing, even though it's coming out that way. But I need to defend why Ben Simmons is more important than Joel Embiid in my eyes when it comes to winning that title. First off, guarding 1 through 5 is important. Guarding 1 through 5 is very important. And if Ben Simmons is getting destroyed defensively, which doesn't happen often, right? But I'm talking about his top of the top games. He is on another level defensively, on top of his aggressiveness, on top of his downhill, going hard to the basket, dunking the ball, facilitating, the defense, the steals. I mean, it's all one when he is playing at the top of the top. But when he is playing at that level, I don't know how you don't compare him to a mini LeBron in terms of dominance. And when he is playing that way, the team will not lose a basketball game. The team can lose a basketball game with Joel Embiid playing the way that he can to the best of his ability, and they can still fall. I think that there's more of a chance that the Sixers would fall if Embiid drops 36, grabs 14, goes to the charity stripe. It doesn't always result in a win. But if Ben Simmons gives you 24 points, 14 rebounds, 10 assists, 3 steals, I don't see the Sixers losing that basketball game. I just don't. And when he is opening up other avenues for his teammates, think about if he is destroying guys, right? And he's got 16 points, 12 rebounds, 7 assists. The game's not even close to being over. Think about how many eyes are on him. Think about how every player on the other team is going to have to defend differently. They're going to have to clog the paint. They're going to have to make a way to get the ball out of his hands. Fine. Kick it to the outside too. Enter player here. Josh Richardson. Matisse Thybulle. Al Horford. Tobias Harris. He'll be able to get other players going based off of how fantastic he is in that specific game. When Ben is playing Ben's style of basketball, where it's lethal, where it's disgustingly good, where it just makes you jump up and down and scream and hold your chair wherever you're sitting and get up and put your hands over your head, it's insane. It's insane. And that ceiling, Ben's ceiling, is higher than Embiid's ceiling. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about playoff basketball, and I'm also crying inside knowing that it's not happening right now. It's not happening right now. And I am shocked. I am shocked with myself and how the world is reacting without sports, because originally, when we all heard about it, I remember leaving the Wells Fargo Center. I was covering the game for 97.3 ESPN that night. They played the Pistons, and as I was leaving the arena, the news broke. The NBA is suspended. Rudy Gobert has coronavirus. It went crazy. And, of course, I'm in shock for a couple of days, but I thought, how am I going to live without sports? How am I going to do anything without sports? Sports is my life. It's also my job. And speaking of jobs, by the way, if you did not know, I took a job offer to co-host Afternoon Drive on 97.3 ESPN, 2 to 6 p.m. with Mike Gill. I start May 4th, this upcoming Monday. So the link is in the description where you can listen live online, and then you can also download the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. So I just got sidetracked there. I'm just going to plug that in there. I'm super excited. I'm super thrilled. It's going to be a great time. Where was I? Sports. It's my life. It's my job. That's how I tied the two. Yes, it's my job. I am dealing with this better than I expected. Maybe it's a psychological thing where don't think about it, bros. Don't think about it, bros. Don't think about it, bros, because if you do, you'll get upset and just wait. Time will do its thing. There's no fix for this. You don't get too worked up and let it run its course. Maybe it's just natural that I think that way because I can't control the outcome. I can't control when sports are coming back, so I don't think about it as much. But in terms of dealing with this, it's been weeks. It's been so long without sports. I don't know how much longer we have, but I just feel I'm doing better than I expected to do after the first 3 days of it sinking in that we won't have basketball. We won't have playoff hockey at the respected times that they should have been played, you know? So I'm pretty impressed with myself on how I've handled no sports. I would have never imagined in a million years that there would be no sports. And here we are, relaxing, doing all right, getting through. Better than I thought I would, emotionally and mentally. Where was I? I don't remember. That's great. All right. Number 2 on the list. Carter Hart. Goalies win titles in hockey. You need to have a stellar netminder. They are the most important piece to the puzzle in playoff hockey. We've seen this happen so many times. A team throughout the regular season, they're above average, obviously. They make the playoffs, but they're not lethal. They're not elite teams. Yet, here you go. A team gets hot at the right time. Their goalie's playing magnificent. They stop everything that comes their way. And then they go on this crazy run. Braden Holtby, Marc-Andre Fleury. I mean, it happens every single year. Jonathan Quick with the LA Kings. Jordan Binnington of the St. Louis Blues. You need a red-hot netminder. So for me, Carter Hart needs to be his own version of Marc-Andre Fleury, Jordan Binnington. He needs to play at that level. Jonathan Quick. And the Flyers can win a championship. You saw it this season alone, how much different a good goalie is to a team. Over the last 500 years, without Carter Hart, some of the same scenarios would lead to a 5-1 deficit, a 4-1 deficit. But because Carter Hart's in net, the Flyers are still up 1-0 because he saved those 5 goals. Or that one big crucial play where there's a defender who left a man wide open in the slot and the Penguins get a grade A scoring chance. Sidney Crosby's in the slot, and here's Carter Hart with an insane glove save where he falls backwards and catches it over. I mean, it's just great stuff. Carter Hart keeps his team in games, and you need that in the postseason. 2 years ago, when the Washington Capitals won the Cup, the save by Braden Holtby against the Vegas Golden Knights, titled The Save, was the reason why they came back and finished the job to raise the Stanley Cup. You need that. Claude Giroux, of course he's important. Yes, he needs to produce. They need to score power play goals. He needs to be a great captain. Travis Konechny, of course, he needs to play stellar. He has to make plays. He needs to put the puck behind the other team's netminder. They need to find guys. James Van Riemsdyk, JVR, he needs to find the twine. He has to put it past the keeper. Yes, they have to make plays as well. You don't win without a goalie. You do not win without a goalie. It's almost impossible. It's almost impossible to win without a goalie. That's why that 2010 run with the Flyers, it was so nuts. Are you kidding me? Michael Layton? Although on the other side, the Chicago Blackhawks were playing with fire in between the pipes too, which sort of evened it out. But that's why that run was so crazy. Number 1, Carson Wentz. When Nick Foles won the Super Bowl, you had a quarterback who outdueled the greatest quarterback of all time, who arguably had the best Super Bowl from a statistics standpoint of all time. You need to have a special QB on that given day. Carson Wentz would have to play at that high of a level to win a Super Bowl. There are certain occasions where that might not be the case, but that's not a recipe for success. For example, when Tom Brady won the Super Bowl against the Los Angeles Rams, did he play absolutely phenomenal football? No. It's probably one of the most boring Super Bowls I've ever seen in my life. I couldn't believe we were sitting through that trash, to be honest with you. Okay, you can win a game. You can find a way to win a game, squeak one out, not playing the best game ever. And that can be said about all of these players. It's a little different because the Super Bowl is one game, while these other sports are 7-game series, so it doesn't work the same in football. But yes, you can not play fantastic on that given day and still win, but that's not a recipe for success. If you want to win the Super Bowl, you're going to have your quarterback play a really close to perfect football game. if he doesn't play well, but the defense plays well, it could possibly maybe work out. Not really, though. Not really. Can Fletcher Cox have 3 sacks? Yeah. But if Carson can't move the football, if they're going 3 and out, if he's missing guys wide open, if the receivers can't get open and he's forcing things and getting picked off or whatever the case may be, they're not going to win the football game. So number 1 for me has to be Carson Wentz. So let's open up the phone line, shall we? Let's hear from you. And before we do, just keep in mind that this episode is sponsored by Orbit Energy and Power, and they set the standard for clean energy. Whether you are looking to add solar to your home or your company, they will ensure that you are getting the best deal. Let's start off with our first call.
What is going on, Sports Talk with Broads? It's Philly Mike with the Philly Talk podcast. So that's a very interesting question. If I have to say the top 5 in order, I'm going to go first, Jalen Hurts. I know how you feel about that, so I had to just put that out there. But first, I would say Carson Wentz. Second, I would say Joel Embiid. Third, I would say Ben Simmons. Fourth, I would say Bryce Harper. And fifth, even though he's just a new Philadelphia Eagle, I'm going to go Darius Slay because the way our secondary was last year, if he can really shadow and let other guys like Sidney Jones and Maddox only have to deal about the number 2, I think that could really put our defense over the top with a tough D-line, having a good secondary, and even though we haven't seen him play in Philly yet, he could turn that defense to a type championship defense. Thanks for taking my comment. Appreciate you, bro. Keep up that good stuff. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that phone call. Interesting list. Wentz, Embiid, Simmons. It's funny because you just hear so many different versions for Sixers. I mean, it is either Ben or Embiid, but it's interesting to hear how people line them up together. I just see Ben having more of an impact. I think Ben has more of an impact when it comes to this team winning because he can do so much more. He's more versatile. He opens up the floor for more people. He plays defense at such a high level. Not that Embiid doesn't, but guarding the perimeter in this era of basketball is different because of how many people shoot three-pointers. I'm not knocking to think that Embiid, though, has to be very powerful to win. Bryce Harper, once again, it depends on how people view baseball when it comes to everyday players and starting pitching. Starting pitching, to me, is more valuable. I'm just dating this off of how teams win in the postseason. And Darius Slay, that's a very interesting point. Very interesting point. He is a player that can change a game. If you can shut down the opponent's number 1, that's a huge help. Huge help. We know Jim Schwartz. He lives and dies with the pressure of the D-line. Well, think about what that can do if you have a cornerback that can shut down the opposing team's number 1 wide receiver. Slay's a good choice.
Hey, bros. This is Ethan here. For me, number 1 is Carson Wentz because the quarterback, probably the most important position in sports, and they need to be able to lead that team. If they don't do good, the team won't do good. Second, I'm going to go Joel Embiid because come playoff time, if Joel Embiid is not healthy, the Sixers are not winning a championship. Third, I'm going to go Bryce Harper because he's the guy we paid $330 million, and he's the one that can come up clutch in the big moments. Fourth, I'm going to go Ben Simmons because just how he runs the offense, and if he's not there in the playoffs, I don't see the team winning a championship. And then fifth, I'm going with Claude Giroux because we need him to bring that playoff experience to the younger guys if we get to the playoffs this year, if they happen, and then step up in the playoffs and be the leader that we expect him to be. Thank you.
I'm pumped that you put hockey on the list. No doubt I am pumped that you put hockey on the list. Couple things. Embiid's health. Okay, that is definitely a conversation to have when bringing up Joel Embiid. When I thought about Embiid versus Simmons on the list, I thought about Embiid being there, Embiid being on the court. It's just, is he playing the best Joel Embiid basketball, or is he having an average day? If he's not on the court at all, that's a problem. That is a problem. He needs to be able to have himself on the court to be available. The sickness, he's got to go to the bathroom. I mean, you name it, we've heard the excuse out of Joel Embiid. So you're right. He needs to be able to be on the floor. That is a big-time issue. But if that's the case, if the Sixers, and this is the way I'll look at it in terms of how I rank this list, if it was Ben Simmons, no Embiid, do you feel better than if it was just Embiid, no Ben Simmons? Because I would think I would feel more confident with Ben and not Joel than just Joel and Ben. Because you lose your floor general. That's a big-time problem. You lose the perimeter defense. That would be scary. It would be a very scary thought. Claude Giroux, the playoff experience to the Young Guns, no doubt there is an important role of being the captain, of bringing up old times, for example, going to hit Sidney Crosby right off the face-off and then finally scoring a goal in that shift, too. It was just such a sick moment. He's important. I just don't think he's more important than the kid in between the pipes in the blue paint, Carter Hart. You got to have stellar net mining to win a title.
What's up, Rhodes? For my top 5 most impactful players in Philly sports right now. So number 5, I'd have to put Ben Simmons. Number 4, I would have to place Joel Embiid. 3, I'd put Carter Hart. 2, I'd put Carson Wentz. 2, I'd put Bryce Harper. And number 1, I'd put Carson Wentz. The reason why I put Wentz, number 1 is, he was the only reason why they, were that relevant last year. Without Wentz, I don't think anybody else could have carried that practice squad. Like, in the month of December, he was playing the best football outside of Lamar Jackson, in my honest opinion. But yeah, those are my 5.
Yeah, I think Wentz is a good one. Wentz is definitely a good one at number 1. I wonder if people are falling in love with Harper as a name. What good is it if you have a starting pitcher in baseball who has a bad game, but you have one player who goes 3 for 4 and knocks in 2 RBIs, but your starting pitcher is allowing 5 runs in 5 innings, right? Or even if your pitcher's just average, say he goes 5 innings that night and allows 3 runs. And then you got to rely on the bullpen. But if you get 5 innings out of your starter in a playoff game and they allow 3 runs, I don't know. I don't know how important that 3 for 4 is with 2 RBIs compared to, say, your starting pitcher going, I was going to say 7, but if we're talking Aaron Nola playing his best baseball, okay, say he goes 7. We're talking postseason ball, 7, 8 innings, and 12 strikeouts. To me, I need to see that. Well, what if Bryce Harper has his best game ever? Say he goes 5 for 5 with 4 home runs or something. Oh, man, it's tough because it's a 7-game series, and I'm thinking about Aaron Nola getting the ball in his hands and the importance of having that starting pitcher in playoff baseball that I can't overlook. I can't overlook it. And I guess when it comes to this Ben Simmons and Embiid thing, I'm the only one who's putting Simmons over Embiid.
Hey, Rhodes, I think the most 5 impactful players in any Philadelphia sports team out of the 4 are Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, Carson Wentz, Claude Giroux, and Carter Hart. I don't know if you agree with these, but I do.
But I do. That's a funny way to end it. G over Hart, I'll disagree with. And once again, Simmons is second to Embiid. I don't know if people are realizing how important Ben Simmons is to this offense and to this defense. Think about it this way. I laid out the scenario. No Embiid, but you got Ben, or no Ben and you got Embiid. I feel more comfortable with the ball handler on the floor. Wow. A lot of different answers. Now you can see why in that group chat we had a debate. We were freaking out. We were nonstop texting so late at night because so many people were freaking out. How can you put him here and here and there? And oh.
Good evening, Hunter. All right. 5 impact players on the 4 teams. We'll start with the Eagles. Of course, you got to go with Carson Wentz. You usually go as your quarterback goes in the National Football League, usually. And the Eagles have hitched their wagon to Carson, especially with the recent decision-making. The 76ers, I think it's a twin package here with Embiid and Ben Simmons. Those two basically came in together, and they're the faces of the franchise. For the Phillies, you go with Bryce Harper. They put all their eggs basically in his basket, and they want to ride him to the promised land. And for the Flyers, usually in hockey, you go as your goalie goes. So it would be Carter Hart for me. Because the NHL is the one sport where if you have a hot goalie, you can steal series against a superior opponent. So again, Carson Wentz, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, Bryce Harper, and Carter Hart.
He did it a little different. Sean went with a different approach. He went per team instead of the list. I still respect his players. The players are pretty much as the other people are, but the importance is the list. I want to see the Ben Simmons and the Joel Embiid difference. Where were they on the list? Who's over the other? I love the fact, though, that he brought up the goaltending in hockey. Yes, you cannot win without a goalie that is on the top of his game. If he's not playing well, you might be able to squeak one out by a score of 10-7 or 9-8. Remember that Penguins series a few years ago? It was epic. I mean, so many goals were scored, and the Penguins would win those games even though they allowed a juicy amount of goals. So just like with football, if the quarterback doesn't have the best game, it is by a small percentage, though. It is a chance. There is a chance to win. Same with hockey, I guess, but it's not a recipe for success to actually put your team in a position to win long term. And that's where the difference in 7-game series compared to the one Super Bowl comes into play. But, the Super Bowl is the prized possession. It really is. In all of sports, it just holds more power than anything else. So with that being said, the quarterback position, the most important player in the sport, and you can argue possibly in sports, gets the number one on the list, and that has to be Carson Wentz, who puts this team in a spot to make the playoffs every year. 2018 was a little weird one for him, but he does win football games, and he puts this team in a position to make the playoffs. Can't deny that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. Comment your 5 down below. And I will see you next time.